WHO head, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said, we are not fighting an epidemic, we are fighting an infodemic. Because there was so much of information about COVID. You do this, you will get COVID. You do that, you will not get COVID. And there were so many things. None of it was scientific. So it was important that the correct information is it is generated and then disseminated. So did Dr. Swaminathan tell you something about how important communication was in that difficult time?
Oh, yes, definitely. So just to give a little bit of background to the book is she was in the limelight because of COVID, right? And COVID may, you keep social distancing, you do your hand washing, hygiene. A lot of advisories and do's and don'ts were being given. So Dr. Swaminathan was given the opportunity to head the scientific division, the chief scientist at WHO. So yes, to your question, she was very informative and she did provide a lot of understanding about the communication of the science. Because it has to be, if you are, you stick to your science and then you talk to people about it. You just don't go by myths and superstitions and all that. If it is scientific enough, then you do it. And today still, if you actually go and see, people are wearing masks. There are these kind of concerns. So yeah, so she was very, very informed and she was always driven by science. So that was one of the biggest among a lot of people. She has been a very good communicator of science and the kind of work that provided this kind of.
Swaminathan fought. Being a woman, I'm sure many women and girls here will agree, she fought gender biases almost right from the beginning of her life. She had a great deal of support from her father, who, as ANURADHA just told you, was the famous rice scientist, the father of the rice revolution. So, did ANURADHA, you had any kind of gender biases in your rise as a journalist and a writer?
So I'm sure all of us over here have faced some kind of bias. And yes, of course. And the only thing I would like to point out is that whichever family you go into, right, at that point of time, I have seen families where the mother is praying that after 3 girls, hey Bhagwan, mujhe bacha de de, son. So that son preference is so very prevalent in our country. Yes. So that kind of, it kind of stays with you, I feel. These kind of, whatever you kind of grow up with. And coming towards my young career days, I was an intern. And I particularly remember this because, I gave back, I retorted, right? So he just came up to me and says, oh, apart from looking very pretty, what else do you do? And I said, okay, get my story on page 1. That would be great if you can. But my thing is, okay, tell me you look pretty. I will say thank you. But what is the work that you're doing? Split your question. Apart from, that's not right. So I just feel that somewhere all of us have faced this kind of situation. Whether it is a man or whether it is a woman. And I think the way forward is to kind of, in your own family, your brother, your father, everybody needs to understand that there is respect. You need to respect the woman and you need to understand what she requires. And that's how I think I'm not going to give gyan here because all of us know, but yeah, that's how, and with Swaminathan, there was a different kind of bias in the sense because she's the daughter of a very well-known, renowned scientist, and there was a feeling that, oh, it's so easy for you, everything is laid out for you, aapko kuch karna nahi hai. And her reaction was, she took it in her stride, she wouldn't retort, she wouldn't give back. But her other sister, Nitya Rao, she didn't take the Nitya Swaminathan surname. So, there are differences in each family, how you kind of deal with this kind of bias. But yeah, I think We have a Me Too movement. We have a lot of women's voices coming up. Unfortunately, I just feel that some aspects should not be misused, because there is a lot of misuse also happening if the woman doesn't like that man. So that is not correct. But yeah, a lot of things are happening.
Ms. Swaminathan's best answer to bias was to become so good that you cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
So you always had that option with you. Whatever chaps may say and talk among themselves, finally you can't argue with sheer merit. If you have the merit with you, it will prove itself. And she did. She rose from one level to another level to topmost levels in the industry, in society. So that's what she done, and that's what I think all of you, if you read this book, or at least read parts of it, should be able to get out of the book. Strengthen yourself. Do not worry about what people say. Strengthen yourself and prove yourself. There are some points where difficulties are bound to come in your career. Nobody is going to have a rose bed, a smooth way all through their lives. So the question is, how do you tackle those difficulties? How do you find the answers to the questions that the world throws up? Now, apparently the India-Africa Health Science Program in Soumya was very keen to see completed. That did not achieve its success because of bureaucracy in Africa. Luckily, the delegates from Africa are all in some other halls. They are not here, they would have got offended. But did you have any occasion about, did she tell you about the kind of problems?
If I may I just read out one paragraph from my book, which perhaps will kind of help you. So it's regarding the question about, as the Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research, she was very, very keen on taking up projects related to dengue, related to malaria, and she wanted, a lot of collaborations with different countries. And this was one program which even the PM Modi and everybody had come together. So a lot of countries, including India, Africa, and she was very, very, passionate about it. So actually, why it did not work is, I'm just going to read out one paragraph, is that India and Africa both face similar challenges in health, including commonalities in disease burdens, similar demographics and environment, limited resources to run large-scale public health programs. So at a time when emerging economies are increasingly moving away from the Western funding models, it is critical that India and Africa understand each other's strengths. So this program definitely was important, but what she said is that had the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention existed at that time, because scientists from Africa and scientists from India were very keen on this program. However, bureaucracy, political interference, it kind of took away from the entire program, and there were too many bureaucratic tangles. So there were scientists from Africa, scientists from India who were willing to come together, and Soumya recalls starting the paperwork, getting signatures from the Africa Union that was administering the African Academy of Sciences. However, the African Academy of Science was a political body and extremely bureaucratic, and that, to my mind, came as a huge surprise as well, because we know Indian bureaucracy, right? So that's another separate topic itself. But so much of bureaucracy. Yeah, we did, and we were just talking about it at the moment during the lunch hour. So so probably this is one point. If you ever read the book, perhaps you can ask the African counterparts if you take it forward. But having said that, I did read up on the question. I think in 2019 they have again renewed efforts to come together on some kind of platform. So maybe that would be
case of Nandita Venkatesan.
Yes.
So I think considerable space has been devoted to her.
Right.
What was the
Swaminathan. So she's done a lot of global work in HIV TB space. And when I wrote the book, I just thought we need to humanize the data, right? You need to give patient voices. It just can't be very drab. So there is a transgender person called Noori, and she was the first HIV person. And Dr. Swaminathan, back then, we are talking about the 80s, where people were so scared of HIV, you wouldn't want to touch the person, you wouldn't want to talk to that person, but she would go and she would touch and talk and willingly talk to them. And she looked like Indira Gandhi, so the HIV people got, "Ye hamari Indira Gandhi doctor bhi madam hai." So I just got these examples in the book. And Nandita's case was that it just doesn't happen to the poor, right? It can happen to the middle class. And tuberculosis is such a disease that it is of course a disease of poverty, but still it is very prevalent. And what her thing was, if adequate nutrition is given, it can reduce the incidence of TB. But my question was that don't ordinary people like us also get TB? We eat well, we are okay, we are healthy. She said yes, they do. And so I interviewed this girl who's a journalist with the Mint. And she's a data journalist. And she lost her sense of hearing. She could not menstruate because she got TB. And I found it so appalling, and I said, my God, this is crazy. We need to bring her story out, which is why the story was woven around in that, to talk about the increasing incidence of TB. And if all of you all know, the PM Modi has talked about TB Mukt Abhiyan by 2025. I don't know whether that's a reality, but it's another case. It's work in progress.
That's another debate.
Yeah, so that's the reason I
Yes, I believe that. Now, you know that COVID came in waves. First one wave, then the second wave, which was in fact more deadly than the first wave. In Bombay, two of my colleagues, two photographers, they had gone on an assignment to Tapti, which is a river near Surat, and they both came back and they contracted COVID, did not survive. So the second, at least in my part, that part of the country, the second wave was more deadly. The question is, could the second wave have been prevented?
So there has been a lot of literature on this question. A lot of public health experts have spoken about this issue, about whether the second wave could have been prevented. It's all in the public domain. And yes, JAIRAM, I'm sure you and I would agree that it could have, in the sense, because I think we opened up too quickly. And there was a kind of, we've suffered the worst of the first COVID wave, so all of us have developed herd immunity. And the second wave, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were some 1,000 deaths every day. And I just remember this when I spoke to public health experts like Dr. Srinath Reddy and MENON and so many other people. They said, of course it could have been prevented. Because what happened is, when we talk about COVID variants, they were easily transmissible, they were contagious, right? So when Maharashtra had said that there's a COVID variant in Feb that year, genomic surveillance could have been stepped up, and that's what even Dr. Swaminathan says in the book. And that didn't happen. And second wave was, sadly, it was a terrible one. But here's the thing, that even if it could have been prevented, have we learned lessons? Have lessons been learned? Are we looking at another pandemic? There's bird flu crisis happening. Nobody's here from Africa, but there's Marburg virus happening over there. We also had the HMPV virus. We had another. So the human and the animal interface is a reality today. So are we really prepared from the lessons of the first or the second pandemic? Are we really? So that's a question that we need to kind of raise. This is what she's talked about in the book. That there are a lot of these things where learnings have to, and this voice has to keep on repeating itself again. That we need to keep on talking about, because public memory is short.
So those were the key questions about the pandemic, which probably students, medical students, maybe would find it of greater relevance. But what all of you, all of us, those in humanities, would find of relevance is that Dr. Swaminathan was, apart from being a great doctor, was also a great builder of bridges. She could integrate different streams of medicine, different streams of administration, many things. So that is what all of us can try to do. Do not work in silos, as they call it. You step out, reach out to other communities, other professions, and together you make a united front. For that, it will help if you have a outgoing personality. If you're born with it, you're lucky. If you're not born with it, then you can make an effort. And if you make an effort, you try anything for the proverbial 1,000 hours and you'll be good at it. So Dr. Swaminathan's celebrity moment came during COVID. You all have heard of Shobha Day? I'm sure nobody in the world is around who has not heard of Shobha Day. Shobha Day said something very good about Dr. Swaminathan. I think I'll go there and read it because it's so important. She said she was mesmerized by her personality. Shobha Day, by Shobha Day's personality. We've all seen her on television. I saw her too. The short, stylish, silver grey hair, Mrs. Gandhi. Silver grey, those hand-woven, one-of-a-kind tunics, saris and stoles. The discreet bindi. She had a bindi, no? Yeah, she has a bindi. Small bindi. There she is. All of it went together to make up this personality. So in a sense, Dr. Swaminathan was to medicine what Dr. Raghuram Rajan was to banking. So you need to have personality to go with whatever you do. So if you don't have the personality, you can develop it. No hurry. Just work on it, work on the style with which you talk, work on the style with which you move around, and before you know it, you have a personality. So one more thing that is now a cause for concern is that what Dr. Swaminathan is probably fearing is that the WHO, it's supposed to be a World Health Organization, but it may not remain a World Health Organization if people pull out. Who is pulling out now, or who has pulled out? US. Yes. US is pulling out. US, if it had been just pulling out, it would have been okay, Janado. But they also pull out with a lot of their money. Then it becomes a little difficult, no? I mean, those कहीं तो चलेगा, but पैसा भी जाएगा तो it becomes a problem. So, what do you think, Anurada? Is the future of the WHO, is it secure? These kind of forces pulling apart from each other.
Thanks for the question, though it should directly be addressed to Dr. Swaminathan more than me. However, I wanted to also talk about the personality bit. I just wanted to say in the light that, you need to be a good listener. You need to listen. You need to understand and, basically understand the subject, listen carefully to the conversation, and then communicate. So you need to listen and communicate well, which is, I think, has been the hallmark of what Dr. Swaminathan's entire personality. She was very calm, very composed in the face of the pandemic. She listened, she heard, and then she used to talk about, the relevance of science and sticking to science, even in the face of any outlier, etc. So coming to WHO, well, it's not for me to really talk about the agency, but having said that, there are so many reports which said that, I'm not too sure, we'll have to check whether Trump has actually, he said that he's reconsidering the decision. And a lot of
the process.
yeah. So, however, what could have been done is could have been strengthened the organization, could have highlighted the weaknesses in the WHO like the key role to playing global health policies, etc. But there are 193 member countries.
193.
Member countries. So US also stands to lose out.
Right.
If they are not on board on that meeting with the WHO and other countries. So what kind of world are we getting into? So yes, what I wanted to just say is that maybe if an organization has its weaknesses, you need to strengthen it. You need to reorganize, you need to kind of find out, where these things could have been improved upon. And I think then for Mr. Trump to then decide, I can't really say much for that.
What about Jinping? There was a China angle.
Okay, so we have Chinese experts here.
Yeah, we do. So because there was one allegation that China was, Wuhan is based in China, but they made sure that the WHO does not call the virus the Wuhan virus, except for one channel on Indian television still calls it the Wuhan virus. Everyone else calls it its scientific name. But do you think China should have been more transparent?
So, according to WHO, obviously they will not have the legal right, to tell China anything. They did tell them to be more transparent. And obviously there were these allegations which Trump initially, it's nothing new. He thought that the origin of the virus, and he was saying that WHO was backing China and kind of on this origin of virus theory kind of thing, right? So obviously Trump was upset about it. And he has been after the WHO ever since the COVID pandemic. So actually these decisions are not really unexpected, if you ask me. But Wuhan virus and all, I don't think that's right in a sense to call it a Wuhan virus, because it kind of, it identifies, it's kind of labeling. And we did see a SARS-CoV-2, elsewhere also. We did see SARS-2, we saw the MERS-2. So other viruses, but again, that's for scientific experts to discuss and deliberate upon it. But there was a lot of discussion on giving the name of the virus as well, because of all this controversy of the Wuhan virus. They had committees to come and then, and that's what we had reported, that they had committees to then decide and classify which virus and how it should be labeled.
Actually, I think all of us will agree that China ought to have been more transparent and more forthcoming about what exactly they've been doing, what they did wrong. How did it start? There was the laboratory where something broke, where it spread from there.
I think there are still committees on this. It's not in the public space yet.
Yeah, that's right.
WHO has set up committees.
And India at that time also had problems with China on the frontier. So I like the crack. We are the only country in the world who is fighting both the creator of the virus and the propagator.
But here I would like to just take the conversation away from this by just saying that there's such a lot of misinformation on social media. Anything that happens, it could be just blown out of proportion. And I think that's what happened during COVID as well. So hence the reason for more scientific and trusted voices to then actually listen to what happens. Don't do this, don't do that. Ye mat karo, then you will get this COVID. Ye mat karo, you will get this. So that is what the book also essentially relays, that you need to rely on the science about it. You can't get carried away with kind of misinformation. You need to check the facts.
I know there is a political leader in Maharashtra, Dr. Athavale, ANURADHA. I don't know how he got his doctor from, ANURADHA, who also had his own method of combating COVID, which was very simple. He said, you just have to say, go, COVID, go. COVID, go. COVID, go.
I wish the author would have, the person who have written about was here, that would have been even better, because that conversation would have really kind of
Really
very
best.
encouraging.
The lessons from the book are not that you need to become a good scientist. As I said, you're not going to be a scientist, but you can be good in whatever you do. In that, you can enlarge your role. Whatever you become, suppose you become what? An oil scientist, that's what engineering, or you become an HR expert, you enlarge your conscience, go out, see things around you, see the big picture, and then provide the solution. So, I guess the ultimate, the message from the book is that try and better whatever you're doing. And if you keep trying hard enough and long enough, you are bound to succeed. And both of us here will wish all of you the very best of luck every step of the way.
Thank you. Some kind of feedback from, I mean, I know you all don't know lady and you all don't know us.
Any
It would be
questions?
interesting to have some kind of feedback on this very general session. So, anybody who would like to just, anybody's interested in communication, in
Previous
journalism.
session,
I mean, he's a stalwart. He's been a very, very reputed editor, and he's from the Free Press Journal. If anybody has questions,
the previous session said that the speaker said that his instructor from the university had said that if nobody asked questions, then their tickets back to Bombay would be withheld. So similar fate was not awaited both of us. So, to spare us, at least please ask some questions. And one thing you must cultivate is the ability to stand up on stage and ask. There is a slight, in all of us, a slight reluctance. Even me, I find reluctant. But we must get over that. Try and get over that, especially Indians and a little more of the Northeast region. They are a little reluctant. I had gone to Jaipur just before this, and there were too many questions. So many questions, the others have to be shushed down. So don't worry. Ask some questions. There is no stupid question. There is no foolish question. The greatest thing that you can do is to ask questions.
So one more thing which I just want to add to is that, when Dr. Swaminathan, since the gender bias that he was talking about and how she dealt with it is when she was chairing these committees. So, for instance, there's, say, the job of a lab assistant, okay? And there would be some 30 applications and majority would be men. And there would just be 2 women. So she would recall that application. She says, I want half of the applications to be from women. But of course, performance-based, then she would give the job. But if there are 30 applications, she would insist that 15 are from women. So there's like equal status, this gender equity. So, do you girls have any kind of, let me just ask a question back to you so that perhaps you can respond. How do you all deal with this kind of a gender bias? I think that's something which would resonate with you. Or whether it's like you're from Northeast or, anything that you would like to tell me so I get my learnings back when I go back. At least I'll get my ticket to do it.
Yes. So please.
Whoever,
Yes.
you would ask me a lot of questions. Why don't you say something? Yeah.
It's called yes. Set the ball rolling.
Yeah, it's just a conversation. Don't be shy. Anything that you'd like to
You want
think
the mic?
about gender
Mic?
bias or...
Yeah, take the mic.
Ma'am, coming from this northeast part or maybe from the entire India, we will often see that as a subject of gender bias, we can often see that when women come out for participation or in any cultural event or any festival or whatever it is, we always expect a girl or the female gender to be in activities such as dancing or singing or theatre, only limited to cultural things. And coming to the forefront of literature or fine arts, we often expect male figures to participate there because they say वहाँ पे तो भागना दौड़ना पड़ता है, culture में तो संभाल लेंगे लड़कियाँ और क्या है उसमें. So that is a gender bias that I have often observed because I am myself from literature and fine arts background. So when it comes there, I see often a handful of girls coming up, speaking up. On the other hand, when it comes to some cultural events, there are a lot of girls. अरे लड़कियों को तो सज सवर के आना स्टेज में पसंद है और क्या ही होगा. That is a common mindset that I have often observed here. Even in today, when there are some events, something coming up, while having formal attires, saris and everything, that is considered a formal attire for a girl. If a girl, nowadays it's coming up that girls are wearing formal attire, coats and pants and stuff like that. But till date, in our institutions, even our female teachers, they might be comfortable, but it's personally my opinion. I feel that various times they want to wear something else, but they are forced to wear that salwars and mekhela chador. That is a gender bias I've often observed in this here in Northeast India.
Thank you for that observation. That's interesting.
But you said there aren't many women in literature. I just came back from Jaipur Lit Fest. 70% were women. And most of them are young girls, your age. So, but whatever it is, you all need to step out. Are there public speaking classes in Dibrugarh, Guwahati? Public speaking? There used to be a Nazareth public speaking course in Bombay. And that was, what it did was, it didn't teach you very much about how to speak, except the very basics you could pick it up in a day. But what it did was, it helped you overcome stage fright. The reluctance to stand up and face the crowd. That it did. So if you all have a lot of stage fright, then the simple method is to join a public speaking course, say for 3 months, just 3 months. And it'll help you overcome that diffidence, the reluctance.
There are certain courses in certain disciplines like there's a communication skills paper for the pharmaceutical students. The management students here are given a lot of presentations and things like that. So there are certain scopes, but not a course as in public speaking.
I'm just curious to ask one question because of the event of artificial intelligence and all this chat about deep seeking. Does it really help you students, the AI, using AI technology? Do they use a lot of it? I'm a little curious just to understand that, just to kind of, what are your
Anyone
concerns?
wants to take up this
Especially
question?
because your management studies and would anybody like to say something about AI and whether they use it? Because I have a son and definitely sometimes he doesn't go to college. Or remote, he's just basically on the phone or on the laptop and AI driven answers. So I'm just a little curious to understand that. If anybody could just guide me through that process. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm very so yes, I myself use AI very much for my own for my own notes and for my own.
But the teacher doesn't find out.
They do.
With time, you also AI is just another teacher that is at your immediate disposal. So with time, you also need to adapt to the technologies. AI is nothing. It's just like it is just a tool.
Right.
It matters how you use the tool, for what purpose you use the tool.
It's just a tool.
A human person is still limited to their biases and to how much they have learned. But as a tool in AI, which is so much of what I would say, clouds learnings. So not going to a teacher using AI, there are more possibilities, there are more scope for learnings which a human teacher might miss. Also, AI provides very much specific answers to very specific
But
questions.
isn't a human, the teacher, the student, the interface, the interaction?
Yeah, there is one thing, but if a student is genuinely interested in a certain subject or certain topic and they want to dive more into the topic, so I think AI is much more beneficial in that case.
May I just ask somebody from the audience? She's the professor of history at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and I would just like to ask her whether she also feels this
AI-driven, issues in her university. Yeah, Joy. It's a joy because she is a professor. So, would you like to kind of, respond to this question? I mean, you can come to the mic. She is a history professor, and she just moved today on being Mizo on her book.
Thank you, ANURADHA. ANURADHA and I were college mates long time ago, way back in the 80s. Anyway, yeah, so in JNU too we are facing a lot of issues. And my husband here who teaches in the US also faces a lot of issues with regard to students using AI. I can understand from the student's point of view that it is just a tool, like you mentioned. But from the little experience that I have of students using AI to write their essays, essay assignments and things like that, I find the engagement very superficial when they use AI. So even though I may not, I can't identify 100% that this student, I mean, of course you have this like ChatGPT and all that, and then you have Zero's GPT and you can check, and the university also has tools, where you can check whether somebody has copied the assignments and all that stuff all that is there, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, I feel the student doesn't benefit much. It's a shortcut, but the student does not learn effectively. Because I've taught for over 25 years, and there was a time when students actually read the essays that we asked them to read and wrote their essays on the basis of an engagement with those essays, made their own sense of analysis. But here what students are doing is that they just want the AI to write the whole essay for them. So you don't engage with the original readings that you were asked to have done, so then it becomes a little problematic. So I think learning becomes very superficial, I would think. Of course, sometimes people use Grammarly to check what they have written, which is fine, I think. I mean, at least that is a little okay. If you ask AI to check your grammar, to edit for you and things like that. But even then, it becomes, I don't know, I find the learning very superficial because not to say that you have to know English very well or anything of that sort, and not to give extra premium to English in any way, but what I find is that the student will not be able to speak English, but the essay will be faultless, in terms of grammar. Now, I find that a little problematic because when the student speaks, he or she doesn't know, not to say that it's bad not to know English, or, I'm not saying that, but if you sort of are portraying yourself as speaking very good English by having this faultless essay, then, and you don't do it, and you don't know it yourself, then it becomes a bit problematic. There's no integrity, So I think those are things that you have to consider, and for effective learning, I think you really, really need to delve deeper than AI, And the experience is, of course, very superficial essays. You're not thinking for yourself. That is what my experience is as far as the learning goes. Sorry, it took longer.
I would like to reply to what she said.
Yeah.
If there's time. I'll be very short.
Yeah, very short.
I agree with you what you have said, and yes, your statement is true. If you see from the perspective of just using ChatGPT or AI tool for the sake of marks or just for the sake of passing the academics. But I'm a psychology student here, but I myself like to integrate what I find. I like to integrate quantum physics. I like to integrate psychology. I like to integrate findings of what I would say concession studies. So Generally, teachers are not trained in what I would say this interdisciplinary approach, how the different subjects come at the same conclusion of how their findings correlate or come parallel with each other. Since I have a curiosity myself, I don't find any person whom I can relate or whom I can approach. So for me, AI is my best tutor, I would say. We take approach, not for just for the sake of mark.
Maybe this can be now given to the faculty. It's food for thought, ma'am.
Yes, that's food for thought. It feeds your curiosity, and also I think this is also very good for innovation.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for coming. And you know, as we said when we started, that this is the post-lunch session, which will be very difficult. But thank you all for paying such close attention.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Wonderful feedback.
I hope